afternoon. Today is the 29th of May, and it's time for yet another not particularly interesting, very vague and probably quite boring vlog. So, a couple of years ago now, I made 2 videos that explained what it was I do on a day-to-day basis when I'm not making videos for YouTube. And I thought, actually, because this weekend past was unusual, I thought I'd actually tell you what I've been up to. This isn't Chop's Garage or Shifting Metal or something like that. I mean, you know, if you want to find out what these used car dealerships on YouTube do on a day-to-day basis, then you can watch them. But this is just something that I thought you might find interesting because it was an unusual weekend. First of all, as most of you probably know, maybe some of you don't, I actually do source cars for private clients on a professional basis. I've done that job since 2017, and I've got quite a lot of experience of doing it now. And I do jobs mainly in kind of the south of England because that's close to where we live. Obviously, it's more expensive for me to get there, so I charge mileage. It's one of the ways that I do the charging, and so, you know, I don't tend to do jobs that are too far away because, well, they would cost a lot of money. If someone wants a £2,000 car and it costs £500 in mileage or something like that for me to do the job, then obviously it's not economical for the person to hire me, unless I'm actually, you know, in the area already, which sometimes I am. So I will do that. In this particular instance, this was a repeat job that I had on Friday. It's friends of mine we've known for many years, and in 2021 I helped them get a car, first car, and that car has been very good. It's a 2015 Suzuki Swift, and I don't think they've really had any problems with it. I've got it, I think, March 2021, and the only reason they wanted a new car is because she's expecting some twins, and the boot of the Swift is just big enough to accommodate all the things that you need, like a double buggy, and the rear legroom's not big enough to fit child seats and things like that, really. So I needed another car. So I was already down at that point to film the Enfield Patented Motoring, and they live in southwest London, so it's not too far from there. So I said, okay, what we'll do is on the weekend of Enfield Patented Motoring, I will you know, do the job for you the day before, and that way I only need to charge you the mileage from where I'm staying, which was near Epsom, to where you are, and then around doing the job, and then I'm ending up in Enfield at the end of the day, and that's it. I won't charge you the mileage driving from Eastleigh to you know, Epsom. So obviously they're repeat clients, and so I'm prepared to do that kind of thing for them. First car we saw, and we only saw 2, and normally I would see at least 3, because it's just best to do that. There's a golden rule when looking for cars, and I always quote this. It's not something that I came up with myself, but it's a golden rule, is you never buy the first car you see. Now, you can come back later and see that car again and buy it, but you have to have a point of comparison. Usually it's best to have 2 points of comparison if you can. But what I've been finding, and this is particular to London, I think, is that a lot of the cars that are sort of half decent come on the market, and the sort of thing they were looking at, they go quickly, sort of really quickly. So I'd see a car, and then the refrain that I hear from the person selling it, normally a dealership, but the sort of thing we're looking at, was, "I'm so sorry, that car's had a deposit put against it." So because, you know, I'm not hanging around in the area very long, just close for some reason, I can't necessarily just wait a few days to see whether that sale goes through or not. We have to just set aside a day to do it. Obviously, you know, the client's working, so we have to do it in advance. We can't just think, well, tomorrow we might have a look at it because I'm not there and he's to work, so we can't do that. So we found one, and actually both the cars we saw were Suzukis. They both were. One of them, yeah, you might be particularly interested in. But the first one we saw, it was in Battersea, and I wouldn't say Battersea is the best area to test drive a car unless you exclusively drive around there. But the vast majority of the roads around Battersea are 20 miles per hour, and the traffic is it's not good. It doesn't help, but actually well inside the optional emission zone, and also the Mayor of London has put loads and loads of things like cycle lanes and bus lanes in, which meant the traffic's worse. Now, I'm not against using buses and using cycles in London. I think a lot of the time that is a fantastic idea. Like, if you can somehow avoid adding more traffic to London, then that can only be a good thing. So we went to see the Suzuki Vitara. It was a 17-plate Vitara, the Kuro edition, which is the same car pretty much that I filmed in 2021 on Pre-Jacket Reviews. Apart from that was a black car, this was a white car. It was nothing wrong with it really. I think it had done 44,000 miles. It was a 1.6 petrol manual. The Suzuki engine that's in it is called an M16A engine, which is a very, very popular Suzuki engine until I think about 2020 when they stopped making it. But yeah, there was nothing wrong with it. It was good. Because it lived by the side of the road and it was under a tree, the car could do it for clean, but there was nothing wrong with it whatsoever, absolutely nothing. And what I'd forgotten about those cars is by then they actually had Apple CarPlay in them, and so it was good. It was just under the top end of the budget that they had. So then we thought, okay, well that's fine, but the biggest problem with this was that, and my friend explained this to me, is that the Swift was making up quite a lot of the budget for the new car. So this was a private seller, and there was no wrong with him. He was great. It's just that if we wanted to actually buy the car from him, you'd have to either get someone to lend you a bit of money whilst you sold the Swift, or I don't know, finance part of it and then pay it back instantly. So that wasn't as good as just going to a dealership and saying, I've got a part exchange, please take it. So I looked around for other stuff, but they sort of fell by the wayside. But then I rather stupidly sent the video of the 2014 Suzuki SX4 S-Cross that I thought would land Prestige in February to him, and he said, I want to see that car. And I was like, you do realise that Colchester's quite a long way away from South West London? He said, I know, but I want to see that car. I was like, do you trust the people at Langley Prestige? I was like, well, yes, I've been working with them for 4 years. And so we ended up going to see it, and bought the Swift up, he cleaned it. It was in really, really good condition. Obviously I sourced that myself, so I do take pride in my work. And he had the V5 and all the paperwork for it, and managed to do a deal. I mean, I didn't even have to sort of really do much convincing. I just said, here's the keys to the SX4 S-Cross, which amazingly they actually still had. I don't know why they had it after 3 months, but sometimes that's the way that it goes. I think it might have been red, but it's just as good as my last stroke. The only thing was that the gear lever is just a little bit more sort of wobbly than I expect for a car that's done 36,000 miles, but it's a really minor thing. It wasn't that bad. And so they bought it, part exchange, and they're happy we got that all done in one day. So then I went to film the Enfield Pant of Motoring, and stayed at some accommodation in Enfield. It's quite a busy area around there. It's not quiet or anything, and it's not like Bromley. Bromley's a busy area as well. Obviously the pageant has been postponed due to our exhibition zone, but the people who run the Enfield Pageant Motoring, which I think is White Webb's transport museum that's near there, they just thought, well, although we're in the optional emission zone, which will mainly affect cars between about 1984 and for petrols about 2004 really, technically 2006, but lots of cars before that are compliant, and then the bin fuel we don't talk about anyway, so it doesn't matter for my channel. So everybody who brought a car to the Enfield Pageant of Motoring that was a petrol between about 1984 and about 2004, they would have to pay the charge to the Mayor of London, which I'm very thankful they did, because we had some great cars there. But I noticed a lot of cars in that range sort of weren't there. Mostly they were cars that were actually older than 1984, which you'll see a lot of the photographs and things, and in the footage. So that's sort of interesting. First day was really quite warm and sunny. The second day the weather was quite bad. I had a problem with the phone I was using initially, and I had to actually scrap entirely one part. I filmed 25 minutes of one part and I had to scrap it because it all went wrong, so I had to do it again, which is part 7, which is fine. But apart from that, 9 parts filmed, no problem. The next thing I did was then, a few weeks ago, I got a message from somebody who was a friend of someone else who I knew, who I sourced some cars for his family back in 2018. And I hadn't forgotten I'd done it, but it did take me a little while to sort of wrap my brain and think exactly what I had done. And apparently their car had been written off and they needed a new one. And this time it was a little bit of a different search because they needed a 7-seater. And 7-seaters, which, you know, are under sort of £5,000, are virtually non-existent. You've got to spend a bit more to get one of those. Fortunately, there are actually some that fit the bill, and you know, generally there are a few makes and models available. Things like Mazda 5, the Toyota Verso. Those are very expensive, particularly automatic gearboxes. And then the Ford Grand C-Max and the Zafira Tourer. The Zafira Tourer is the most common one, really. And so we saw a couple of Nissan Qashqai Plus 2s. I did ask Mr. Coleman before I did both these searches. I'm sure there's the Suzuki's he doesn't really have a problem with because they are generally really, really reliable cars. But the Qashqai Plus 2s have a very, very unusual problem with them in that the rear of the chassis tend to rust, not the standard first generation Qashqai, but the Plus 2s in particular. And then of course eventually at very high miles, like 200,000 plus and very old, the front subframes can have problems, and the boot handles fall off. So with this search I went up from Enfield to Cambridge, and we first of all saw a car in Hertfordshire, actually a place that had tons of Qashqais. They had tons and tons of them. We saw 2 of them, a black one and a red one. The red one was not the best really. It had some sort of issues with some of the interior, and the clutch and gearbox were really worn for a car that had done 57,000 miles. So we sort of discarded that one. I looked underneath and the rear chassis was okay actually. Second one, a red one, which was a 2013 as opposed to 2010, very late one, a 360 model, which was a run-out model with a 360 camera on it. Although the camera quality is laughable now, but in 2013 it looked all right. So the red one was better. You know, it was in much better condition. The only thing was the parcel shelf was completely missing, which is, I presume, like they had so many Qashqais that they took it out for another one they were selling. And the air conditioner didn't work, which, you know, could be just a regas, it could be worse. It's hard to say really without investigation. But it was only £1,000 more. I couldn't believe that. It was very similar in mileage, and the clutch and gearbox were normal. The J10 Qashqais don't have the best gearbox anyway. They're not the nicest. But the black one we drove, it was pretty horrible. So that was fine. It would have been a contender. Obviously, it needed a little bit of work to get up to scratch. For some reason, they said it had been serviced, and I saw the colour of the oil, and I don't think it had been when they said it had been. And also, the coolant was low, which indicates to me that if the service was done about 2 weeks ago and the car's not been run, there's something fishy going on with that. So then we went to see another car, which was a 2011 Ford Grand C-Max, very early Grand C-Max. And this was something I've not experienced for quite a long time. We didn't even test drive the car. We had some problems, shall we say. The first problem was the fact that I could see both the rear lights had been changed. They hadn't wiped off the marker pen from whatever scrapyard the lights had come from. So I was thinking, that's interesting. And then we opened up the car, and the doors on the left-hand side both had problems. The front passenger door was still kind of in a very weird state where you couldn't open from the outside. I'm thinking, like, that's an MOT failure. You can't do that. Eventually we pulled it from the inside, and then it did open, and then we closed it and pulled it from the outside and it opened. But I was like, well, how do we know whether this car is needed for a family, that that's not going to happen when you actually need to get out of the car, or someone needs to get you out? And the rear one, on a Grand C-Max, both the rear doors are actually sliding doors, and one of the sliding doors didn't work properly. We could see what it was. It was sort of part of a runner on the outside of the car, was, you know, just needed oiling or something. But I was thinking, like, why hadn't they done this before? you know, you can open it if you use quite a lot of force. But I was thinking, like, again, this is a family car, and like if there's a problem or something, we'll get one of their children out the back, you need the doors to open fully. And then the final straw was when I put the key in, and the thing just wouldn't start. Not at all. It made that horrible clicking noise. Obviously, because it's a Ford, I knew what it was. It's just the battery was flat. But by that stage, we were sort of on our way out anyway. And I said to the gentleman who was at the dealership, I said, I'm afraid this is not for us. And he said, what's going on? I said, well, there's quite a few things, but it won't even start. He said, did you put your foot down on the clutch? I said, yes. I was hoping at that point, just like, well, I hope I did, because otherwise I will look like an absolute idiot if I didn't. And of course he got in, pushed the clutch and turned it, and nothing happened. So we left, and then we looked at the final car, which was a 2015 Vauxhall Zafira Tourer. Now these are really, really good value. So for the same price as the 2010 Qashqai that had like bits inside the car from scrapyards they hadn't taken a marker pen off, and low coolant and other issues in a nasty clutch and gearbox, you could get a 2015 Zafira Tourer. Admittedly, a few more miles on it, but and no colour screen or anything, but a lot more space in one of those. This car was, there were only two problems with it. One was that apparently, according to Mr. Colburn, who you check what I do against with considerable mechanical knowledge, the driver's seat base on the right hand side between where the two levers are, a bit of broken off, and apparently if you're a larger driver, then sometimes that happens in an Astra J, which is a car related to it, or on a Zafira Tourer. I don't know why, but there we go. And then the wheel arch on one side had some kind of accident. I don't think it'd be enough to cause any kind of written off or anything, but it had an accident, and someone had done a repair on that, but they painted it really, really badly, and so it wasn't even the same colour as the car. So obviously that's something to sort of bear in mind. And so we went in with an offer on it, and actually we got £175 off it. Funny enough, my client just basically just said that that's what he wanted to do, so he got the money off, and he went back to Cambridge, and he's all sorted. And yeah, I can't believe how overpriced Qashqai Plus 2s are. And just, you know, keep your wits about you and do your usual checks, even if it says that the car's been serviced on the website, and they tell you the air conditioning works. Just do your checks properly, because unfortunately you have to, otherwise you end up with some problems. But that's it. Life in the Day of an Independent Vehicle Consultant, Part 3. Whether there'll be a Part 4, who knows? Gosh, this is a long video, isn't it? Anyway, thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video and comment below, and we shall see you again for more extremely vague and not particularly interesting music.